What's going on, guys? Graham, GSM Matthews here with Bleacher Report ahead of Supersized SmackDown this Friday, October 15th on FS1 this week, 8 p.m., 10:30 p.m., 2.5 hours of Blue Brand action. Today, we're talking to the Tribal Chief, head of the table, face of Friday nights, the Universal Champion himself, Roman Reigns. Roman, what's going on, man?
Not too much, man. Just finished morning cardio, talking to you now, and then I carry on with the rest of my day.
Fantastic. We're talking on Thursday, less than 24 hours out, or just over 24 hours out from the Supersized SmackDown on Friday. We got Crown Jewel next Thursday. Busy schedule for the Universal Champion right now. Anything you're looking forward to the most about the show on Friday? We got Brock Lesnar coming back for the first time in a few weeks. Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. Finn Balor, Sami Zayn. So many more matches coming up as well. Any one thing you're looking forward to on Friday night?
I think just completing this process of the build to get to Crown Jewel. It's one of those things, especially when you have like such a strong opponent like a Brock Lesnar, which really, I don't know if there's another competitor or opponent that's ever going to be on that level of legitimacy and certainly a huge threat to everything that I've done for the past year and a half. So I think just to complete this process, take it home, and then get out there to Saudi Arabia and knock out Crown Jewel, retain, hear that, and still Universal Champion, and then jump on the jet and head back to Wichita to knock out another SmackDown. So to me, it's like a weekly process, and you get into that groove, and it's kind of just the next thing. What's the next thing? Completion becomes kind of a nice box to check, but at the same time, us being back on the road, being in Ontario, right there in the LA area, it should be an awesome time with great energy. And where we are now, going through a pandemic and just the uncertainty that we've all kind of faced as a society, I think we have to take advantage and enjoy the little things and the little parts of just being a human being and interacting. Obviously staying safe, but yeah, man, just enjoying and having gratitude for what used to be the normal things in life.
Yeah, kind of going off that, man, I'm glad you brought that up because as someone who's been on the road with WWE for almost a decade now, being back on the road for just a couple of months since back in July, it's only been, 3 months you guys have been back on the road. Was that something you and everyone else in the locker room kind of took for granted, and having that, not just the feedback from the audience, but being back on the road, being able to travel, go to Saudi Arabia, go to all these cool countries and cities and stuff like that, and enjoying the little stuff? Is that something you're kind of appreciating more now than you would have, let's say, a year and a half ago or so?
Well, I appreciate being in front of a live audience. There's no question. It makes everything better about what we do, all the way from just the energy to, the affirmation, to like physically, it just doesn't hurt. It still sucks, doing what we do in the ring, from like a pain, standpoint and the physicality portions of it. But when you're in front of nobody, it feels terrible. Like when you're in the Thunderdome, everything hurts way more than it should, opposed to being in front of a live crowd who are just eating it up, who are chanting and creating this crazy environment, this crazy atmosphere, and which ultimately I think enhances the experience for not only the performer but the audience as well. So. But I don't miss travel, man. I don't miss being on planes. I don't miss, being in the air. The Thunderdome was nice because it was in Orlando for a bit and in Tampa. So I would literally just get picked up on the bus, head up there, a 3.5-hour drive to both, knock out do my stuff, and then get back on the bus and be back home that night. So, I mean, that process kind of like created a silver lining, and also being home with my family and my children and my wife. There's no replacing that. But yeah, I do not miss travel. And then, Saudi Arabia is really the only place that I've left the country for. And that's just because it's such an isolated one-off, just in and out on a private jet for, 16 hours, knock out the show, back on the jet, 16 hours all by myself. So
wow.
We go to extreme precautions to make it all, safe for me and make me feel comfortable.
That's awesome, man. And like you said before, too, I mean, there's no rest for the weary here because you guys are wrestling in Saudi Arabia. You're defending the Universal Championship there next Thursday, and then literally the next day, and obviously the time difference and whatever, but you got SmackDown on Friday night. So it's a crazy schedule right now. But you mentioned the match with Brock, and we got that coming up next Thursday. He's going to be on SmackDown tomorrow night as we speak right now. It's a match that I think when the run first started for you about a year ago, this was the match a lot of people were looking forward to. And all the matches you've had along the way have had big fights feel. This one's going to be no exception. But is this the match when you first link up with Paul Heyman on television, become Universal Champion, in the back of your mind when we get fans back, this is the match that you want to have? And obviously you and Brock are no strangers to one another, but as far as like the dynamic, it's different. It feels fresh again. Was this like the one match in the back of your head that you were really looking forward to having at some point when the time and place was right?
Yeah, I mean, I knew we had to do a lot of things in order to get to that point. There was a lot of, bricks that needed to be stacked up to get to a point where, I think he would have felt, enticed to come back. I don't know all that much about Brock, just like you don't, you know what I mean? That's the way he's played it, and I think it's a genius move, not only just for himself and his mental health and his family and everything like that, to just keep himself out of the public eye, but it creates so much mystique behind him as a performer and a character, which is something that's a lost, portion of what we do in our business. That's a lost piece of the art form. But I knew, especially the tie-in with Paul, the history that we've had at such a high level, a couple different WrestleMania main events, SummerSlams, things like that. The history is very, very thick. I knew that, man, if I just keep doing what I'm doing, if I find this groove that I need to be in, and we just continue to do the work every single week, and kind of like Noah, if you build it, they will come, man. And that's what we did. And now you're seeing like the fruits of the labor. I mean, before Brock came back, here comes Hollywood megastar John Cena. Everybody wants a piece of what I'm doing now. If you're in professional wrestling, if you're in sports entertainment, and you want to have maximum eyeballs on you, if you want to be able to transcend and cut into that mainstream, and whether we're like, pulling all those eyes, but there's a buzz around it. And even if they don't watch, they're hearing about it. They know who I am. They know, what could possibly happen with these type of matchups. And when you bring guys like a John Cena, when you bring a guy like Brock Lesnar, who, I mean, might be one of the most, I'm not going to throw him in that like GOAT category as actual MMA, fighting and mixed martial arts. But as far as from a draw standpoint and attention, eyebrow raising, you know what I mean? I don't know if there's anyone, outside of maybe McGregor and Ronda, and there's Brock. So there's like a special three when it comes to the fight game, and Brock's got a stronghold. People want to see him get physical. He's just got that allure. He's got that demeanor around him, that bravado. So I knew if we could do what we did, and thank God it happened the way it did, and we were able to, accomplish all these things that we are, I knew everybody and their mother would be trying to get in the ring with me.
And we're seeing that right now. I mean, Brock is a guy, like you just said, in the MMA world and even in WWE, a box office draw. And we're going to be seeing that at Crown Jewel. And we saw that with you and Cena, SummerSlam, massive stadium in Vegas. So we're continuing to see that with the Tribal Chief right now, which is awesome. And it's all transpiring on SmackDown, which is super cool. We're getting the supersized SmackDown on Friday night. 5 years ago, as someone who's been in the company for a long time, you can probably, attest to this, where all the big angles kind of seem to be transpiring on Raw. But in the last year or two, with you being on the Blue brand, we're kind of seeing that stuff go to SmackDown on Fox, which is awesome. We just had the draft. You stayed on Friday nights as the Universal Champion. Was that a priority to you? Because obviously going over to Raw, you would have killed it over there as well. It doesn't really matter where you are. But are you partial to the Blue brand at this point? You've been over there for about 2.5 years. It's the Roman Reigns show right now. Was that kind of a priority, kind of something that you were hoping to end up on SmackDown coming out of the draft most recently?
Well, I don't think it was a hope. It was more of a demand. You know what I mean? What we're doing, and the character falls very closely to real life with us and what we do. So, and I don't think Fox would have had it any other way. They as they all have, invested a lot of money, and of course they want to have the very best representing their network and who better to do it for WWE than me? But because I'm in the thick of it, because I put in all this work on the blue side for SmackDown, it would have just felt really weird to just be uprooted and try to transition it to Raw. And this is coming from a Raw guy. For a long time, SmackDown was considered the B show, and I was carrying that 3-hour show quite a bit. I mean, I didn't just start doing multiple segments and owning 45 minutes to an hour of the show, when I came back at SummerSlam in 2020. I had been doing this for a long time. I mean, there were times on Raw where I had 3 matches. Like in 3 hours, I did 3 matches. That was the story thread. You know what I mean? So there's been multiple weeks for many years now where I carried the show. But I put credit to what I've done in the past year and a half, year or so. It's been so, thorough and just on a different level that people can forget that. And we live in a fast food world where it's like, what have you done for me lately? And how can I get it faster? So that's built in as well. But yeah, man, I agree with you 100%. Whatever show I'm on, we're going to do our very best to make it the best. And I think that showed a few weeks ago when we came over for Raw. We did a good number for Raw, and I think the show was a lot better, and we were sprinkled all over that show. The Bloodline, Paul Heyman, all the above. I think our stories are so thorough and authentic and compelling and remain interesting that it's going to help any show that we're on. So, but obviously you can't be spread too thin. You gotta somehow manage that to where enough is enough, but not too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the beauty of the brand split. I mean, we're not going back 5-6 years ago when people were kind of on Raw and SmackDown in the same week. I mean, right now we're getting that before the draft kind of goes into effect. But yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And when we spoke back in January, one of the top questions I had for you and that people were really wondering was the new entrance music. When are we getting it? What's it going to sound like? Blah, blah, blah. That was way back when 9 months ago. And obviously we got it back in April. And it's like the most downloaded WWE song right now. It has like 5 million hits on YouTube, even more than your previous theme, which it's been up for like 10 years and it's already more downloaded than that. Talk to me about the song. I mean, it gives me like a Marvel, like Thanos, big boss fight feel type vibe. What were some of the inspirations for you going into that song and how it's kind of turned out? Because it's amazing.
Well, a lot of it was just trying to create that iconic feel to where immediately oh, he's here. Oh, he's coming out. You know what I mean? So that's where we went with the 2 different beats, the 2 different melodies, I guess, is to have that 20-second, 25-second opening to where it's like preparing them. And then here we come. And then I wanted it to transition from there into something more I could vibe to, something more I like. The old like Shield, Roman Reigns music was cool and it grew on me. And I think when you do something over and over and over for a long time, you just figure out how to vibe to it. But this was a beat that this was a track where I just like, man, this is making my head nod. And you'll see it. Like, I feel like my cousins are doing the same thing in the back, but it just gives you that ultimate swag when you're walking out. And I think, especially for an entrance, you know what I mean? Like that's the most important thing is people seeing that and feeling that swagger, that energy, that confidence coming off of you. You have to admit that to them. And it makes them feel comfortable and it makes them feel happy and enjoy what they're experiencing. And I think it just enhances the whole environment and the energy that's in the arena. But yeah, man, I wanted to have that mafia kind of feel, that final boss, as some people have said, but then also put a little bit, I don't know if hip hop is the right, but I feel like I wanted something where people would be like, man, I could lay down some bars on that one. And some people have actually. So to me, it was really important to capture the right vibe to maximize my energy and make me feel most comfortable. Because like the old music, anything, like I said, you do something over and over, you get comfortable. So we had to quickly uproot that comfort and then, be able to dive into the skin of this new track and have it enhance my character and presentation.
Oh, it's fantastic. And it's such a great gym song too. You kind of make it feel like a badass every time you walk out and listen to it. It's fantastic. But as we wind down here, Roman, kind of going off
Bro,
that real quickly.
just to touch on that though, you're right, man. And like while we are going through it, me and Neil,
Mhm.
who's head of the music portion of it all, um, he'd send me the different iterations of it, and I would listen to it during my morning cardio, and just walk to it or do whatever I was doing for like 30 minutes and just repeat it, and just try to find my stride to it. And like, no, that's not it. It's not there yet. And we did that for months, man, and it was little by little. So huge shout out to Neil Lally, and being a part of that process, and then obviously everybody else who made it happen. But yeah, man, it was something that. I had to be able to walk through it and have that kind of like, oh yeah, I can listen to this in the gym for sure.
That's awesome. Well, it was well worth the wait because people were waiting a long time for that. When it finally came out, it was perfect. Was there ever the idea to do it at WrestleMania? Because I know you premiered it a couple weeks after Mania.
Yeah, but it wasn't ready.
Oh, okay.
Me and the big man weren't agreeing on a couple of things, so I was just like, screw it, man. I'm not going out to it now. It has to be. I have to feel it because ain't nobody else. Outside of my cousins and Paul, nobody else is walking up to that. So to me, these are the type of things that I have to be 100% connected to, and that's why I think you can trust. Like our audience can trust in me and the presentation and the character and everything that I'm doing. Is that if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do that shit. Like it's got to be on point with how I feel, and I have to be able to commit and connect to it. Otherwise, it's going to be see-through. I'm not the type that can recite. I can't memorize and recite. I can't. I have to feel. I have to have instincts. And for me to be able to do that, I have to be comfortable and committed to and believe in what's presented to me, so I can present it to our audience.
No, it makes sense. You know, it was, like I said, worth the wait anyway. At least we got it. Better late than never. As we wind down here, Roman, the Golden Glove. I forgot to ask you last time. Is it Thanos Infinity Gauntlet inspired, or is that just one giant coincidence when you wear it out there for your big fights?
It's more of a coincidence. I'm not gonna say I've never watched the Avengers. No, I've seen all the movies, but I honestly didn't like relate it to that. It was just I needed a change, and to me, the gold, like it's always been black. Everything's been black.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit of gray in here, a little bit of blue, but to me, the gold was just like this is what I'm trying to do. And then I've said it before, like everything I touch turns into gold, and that was the mindset that I wanted to have. Like that power, the design of all of it, and the underlying like theme of what we're trying to do is display power at its maximum in every regard, whether it's backstage, whether it's in ring, character, like the whole nine. I want all of my presentation to be powerful, and everything that goes into that to get it to that point. And then it just, championship gold, all of that. There was a lot of little details that tied into me pulling the trigger on going with the gold glove. And now I've rocked the red to represent the bloodline as well. So it's just something like it's a cool interactive situation that makes for great merchandising as well.
Most definitely. You can buy it on WWE Shop, like you said, too. So it's perfect. Last question for you, Roman. Sorry, what was that? Oh, sorry. I thought you said
a shameless plug. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. People can buy it in WWE Shop. Last question for you, man, before we wrap up. Any one match moment stand out to you as Universal Champion? You've been champion for over 400 days. Hell in a Cell on SmackDown, Rey Mysterio, Triple Threat Mania match, the WrestleMania main event, Cena at SummerSlam. So many matches along the way. Does any one stand out to you so far as being the most meaningful or special or all? I mean, obviously they're all great for different reasons, but does any one stand out to you in your mind as your favorite so far?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, like you just said, to me, they all feel very special, and they're all very like super important for all the different progressions and layers of my character, and just kind of going up each rung and taking to the next level. I think to me personally, the most special was the stuff I did with my cousin Jay. I felt more connected to those two matches and that storyline than I've ever felt to anything else. And a lot of that a lot of those promos and stuff like that, and the emotion that you could see in it, they're real. And I think we were able to tap into some baggage that we've had, that we may have not ever really spoke about or even like thought was like an issue or like, you know, like a common ground, but it was something that we were able to dive into. And then as you're doing it, like, it was like, man, these emotions are so easy to connect to that this stuff has to be real. Like, you know what I mean? And we were able to go back to so many different like nuances and mannerisms that we've had over the years. I mean, since we were just little kids. And to me, I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud to be able to be with my family, to continually try to elevate them and position them in the best manner possible and put them in the best light and showcase the performers that they are, because to me, they're, you know, easily, to me, I mean, they're easily the best tag team, certainly of our generation. But I mean, they're more than that. To me, they're single stars, and we still we've tapped into it with Jay, and he's carried SmackDown for a lot of weeks over the past year or so. I mean, we called him Main Event Jey Uso for a reason, because he was holding it down for the show on Fridays. But I think there's still a lot of work that we can continue to tap into and elevate them as well. Man, it's tough because that triple threat at Mania, I think just like when you hear Paul Heyman go in on it and he starts, you know, laying down the history of it, the most dominant finish in WrestleMania main event history. Like, nobody's ever stacked two guys in the main event of WrestleMania, you know. And for me to be able to say I did that is crazy. But I think that's just like recognition and accolade alone. One that's super special to me as well is outside of just being because he's my family and it was so strong with Jay. But the match I did with Edge at Money in the Bank, I believe that was in Fort Worth. That was like the first pay-per-view back. And man, I don't think I've watched that match back, so I can't like really detail if the energy and it was as loud as it was like in arena. But in arena, man, that crowd was live, and just the timing and the pacing. And I've heard some people critique it was a little slow, but that is what the main event and heavyweights do. You know, I'm not going to go out there and start sprinting around and doing flips for no reason. And we're following the actual Money in the Bank ladder match, which is just a spot fest and, you know, crazy, you know, stunt fest in its own right. But to go in there with Edge, who, I mean, I don't have to sing his praises. We all, if you're a wrestling fan or you know, have followed anything to do with wrestling, you already know who Edge is and what he's done for this business, the experience and the passion that he brings. I mean, the man had a broken neck, for crying out loud, and he's still out here getting it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you cannot measure the dedication that man has, but to go out there and experience that reaction and that story that was being told out there together was it was phenomenal, man.
Fantastic, man. It's such a great match. We're going to have another great match with you and Brock and Crown Jewel. But before then, Supersized SmackDown, not on Fox, but rather FS1 this Friday, October 15th, 8 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., 2.5 hours. It's going to be a great time on Friday night. Roman, this has been awesome, man. Such a pleasure talking to you as always. Thanks again for the time and best luck with everything going forward, man. You're a star. You're doing awesome work right now.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.